the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. It was said of Herod, by his boss, the Emperor Augustus, that he would rather be Herod's pig than Herod's son. An odd saying. However, it was fitting in the case of what we know about Herod. Herod's children had the unfortunate way of disappearing when they didn't do what their father wanted, or when things went wrong, or when he got nervous or insecure, or when he thought they were plotting against him. Herod had 10 wives, and several of them disappeared as well when he became insecure or thought they were plotting against him. We have a picture of Herod that comes to us through the ancient historians of the time, particularly Josephus, but through the writings of others of his contemporaries. Yet we also know that Herod was a good king. He was the only one of Rome's kings who, out of deference to the Jews, did not place his image or the image of any animals on their coinage, so that they could use their coinage in the temple and obey the commandment, "Thou shalt not have any graven images." Herod rebuilt Solomon's temple and undertook other great building plans. He improved the lot of an occupied people. He established civil law. He kept the peace. He enabled people to live peacefully. He reduced the amount of pressure that Rome placed upon the captive population. But no one liked Herod. Not because of his excesses, which are many, but because no one thought that he really belonged to them. The Jews didn't like Herod because they said he was only half Jewish, despite the fact that he observed their rituals by not eating pork, hence Augustus's phrase, "I'd rather be Herod's pig than his child." He tried to observe their cultic practices, but they saw him only as half Jewish because he was Idumean, came from the very far south, a country that was independent and considered pagan until they were forced to convert to Judaism during the Maccabean revolt. So Herod wasn't really loved by his bosses in Rome, although he was liked because he kept the peace. He wasn't really liked by the Jews because they saw him as not really one of them and simply a puppet of the oppressor. Herod was made king when he was only 30 years old because he had effectively, but ruthlessly, put down rebellion. And from that time on, Herod continues to gain in notoriety as someone who is cruel because he was suspicious, he was easily swayed, and he was insecure. So we come to this story today that is rightfully put in the Christmas calendar. It's usually celebrated on the 28th of December. And we read this story. It is one of the few stories about Herod that we can find no historical information about. If we read Luke's Gospel, there's no mention of this story. Luke has, after the birth of Jesus, Joseph and Mary returning to Nazareth. So why has the church preserved this story? Why does it have a place in Matthew's Gospel? So much myth has come up around this story through the traditions of the church that the estimate of the number of children who were killed by Herod is anywhere from 5 to 144,000, depending on whose contemporary eyewitness or other account you read. If we think about Bethlehem at that time, it probably wasn't much bigger than Old Mills. So the number of children under 2 in a place with a small population, we're told by the census of that time that was under 1,000 people, would not have been that many. Yet the myth and the legend probably enhanced by the general attitude about Herod, gives a wide range of horrific numbers, up to 144,000. So we wonder, why is the story preserved? Why is it read? Why is it important to us? And why, more importantly, did Matthew write it down? It might be, and it probably is, that Matthew was writing to a church under persecution. He was writing to a church already into the 2nd century of Christianity, beginning to be put out, we know, from the temples, not allowed to share in the cultic and day-to-day practices of the temple because they had become Christian. We know also that they were under persecution from the emperor in Rome. So this story is placed there by Matthew to write to a community that doesn't understand now. How does one react in a place of fear, in a place of suspicion, in a place of unknown? Matthew doesn't give very many clues, but he holds the story up as a beacon. We can say many things about Herod. We can't specifically pin this one on him. But what we can learn from the story, and what we can learn from Herod, is that when we make decisions out of fear, or suspicion, or insecurity, we sometimes make bad ones. There's a famous program that has 12 steps to it. Some of you might know it. And one of the suggestions that program makes is that when you're about to speak, or when you're about to make a decision, use the acronym HALT, which stands for hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. If you're about to make a decision, it seems a little rash even to you. If you're about to say something in the midst of a conversation that perhaps is a little fraught, maybe halt. Ask yourself this question: am I hungry, angry, lonely, tired? If I am, can I halt? Can I pause? Can I make a better decision? Can I take a step back and react in a different way? Matthew was trying to help the Christians of his day understand, in the midst of persecution, in the midst of a time when they couldn't trust their neighbors, who would happily turn them into the authorities if it meant saving their own lives. There are different ways one might react. One might flee. One might stay and fight. One might turn on one's own neighbors and friends in order to save one's own life. The example Matthew gives us in Herod is that perhaps there's a different way. A stepping back. A remembering whose we are. That we're children of God. That God has promised us, like the psalmist says, to always give us an escape from the foul, from the danger, from the anger, from the difficulty, if we simply take a step back. Matthew reminds us that Jesus has become like us to help us become like him. It's a funny time of year for us. Christmas is sort of in the rearview mirror, and New Year's looming on the horizon. Can anybody here remember what the resolution was last year? Blanks. I can't remember either. It was on CBC this morning talking about me, so I'm thinking, gosh, I don't even remember what I resolved. Obviously, I didn't carry it out because I can't remember. Sometimes we impose heavy behavioral resolutions upon ourselves and our behaviors that we know, even as we make them, they we're feeling a little hungover, or we just screamed at our spouse, or we spent too much money at Christmas, then it's unlikely that those reactive resolutions will be fulfilled. In this new year, perhaps a better thing